Welcome to another episode of DegoSec Presents. I'm at the Central Bank today where I'm going to meet the Financial Service Ombudsman. What's that, you may ask? Come and find out. Mr. Roach, good afternoon.
Afternoon. Nice meeting you.
Mr. Roach, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for coming.
What was the culture of DegoSec back in the 70s, especially with the Black Power movement going on?
Okay. Our school was away from the action in town. So we didn't get involved in the marching and all that. But we did have a few students who were considered radical. I think Ras had just come in, so their hairstyles. We had a lot of discussions with our teachers. Our teachers were always very frank and open. Were with us. So you had the dean, Mr. Hines. I think he has passed on. He would take us in hand and talk about the Black Power movement. Because at that time we did not do West Indian history. West Indian history was taught at sixth form level. So before that it was the Stone Age and European and the Industrial Revolution and all that. So they took us as children and explained what was happening and what it meant for us as students, knowing our rights and responsibilities. DegoSec was always into that kind of thing, at least in my time. The teachers followed through on what the parents taught at home and vice versa. So yes, we heard about the shooting. For us it was free time home. We saw a lot of television, although we had one station. We played a lot of games because most of us lived in Diego Martin. So outside of curfews and so, during the daytime, we could still meet at school and play hockey, play netball, farm, do agricultural science, because we did all that. Fun. We were sheltered from what was actually going on in town. Although, as I said, we had one or two people, and maybe those in fourth form, fifth form, that would have gotten more involved in what Black Power was all about. But for us, my time, I would say shelter.
You mentioned that you live in Diego Martin at the time. Was it a privilege for you to go to DegoSec? Or would you have preferred to go to school, say perhaps in town?
No, DegoSec was actually one of the choices. My mom taught at St. George's College in Barataria, and I went to school at St. Ursula's Girls Anakan, which was next door to Bishop's. And I certainly didn't want to go anywhere near town again. Home was just a skip and a hop to school. I could come home for lunch, which is what I did for 5 years. And my dad and mom would cook on me food. So we always had a tribe following me to home, relax. We really used to take our lunch hour and then we went back. So it was fun. It was fun. I didn't have the joys of travel. If I did travel and taxi was about 10 cents, or the bus was 10. I think taxi was 25, bus was 10. That was an outing, you know? And you heard a lot of things about in town, which we didn't have at DegoSec. So, no, it was a privilege.
What are some of your best memories of DegoSec? Just give me one of your best memories.
The best memory is while I was head girl, I think I made in those days $1,000 would have been a lot of money. I charged everybody for every wrongdoing that they did in school. If you stayed back late, and we donated $1,000 to the school at the end of the term, which was fantastic. Anytime anybody did anything wrong, all the prefects, because we were raising money too for school, for something the school was doing, right? Or something that we needed. And I think that was one of my better years. Yeah, told us that we were very wealthy to be paying up. You know, if you're outside and you're buying doubles by the gate when you shouldn't, you give us doubles money or the juice money. And in those days, people obeyed. They didn't retaliate.
Tell me, what was your journey after you left DegoSec academically?
Academically, graduated from Diego Martin Secondary, and then I went to St. Francis Girls College. So I spent 2 years there. I always happened to be the youngest in the class, so I had another year. And I went on to so I graduated from St. Francois, And then I went on to St. George's College in Barataria, where my mom went. So she finally got me into her school. I spent a year there, graduated. I did subjects like English language, literature, history, economics, the thinking subjects. I did that. At WHUD, I would have done also cookery, where I got distinctions in that and commerce, the precursor to economics. So yeah, after that, I worked for 9 months at Colonial Life Insurance Company. Great experience. Had a beautiful boss. Another extension of Diego Martin's secondary teachers, the way that they treated with people. So very humane, very open. We were a very young team, the group department. And I learned a lot there that it's almost like it has paved the way for me where I am now. Because I did salesman commissions on the group policies. So you understood what insurance was all about, why you took out insurance, why you had it. And then the treatment. Every month the salesman took us out to lunch. There was always somebody's birthday to celebrate. I saw Rienzi Complex when the ground was now being turned. A wide experience. We traveled. Of course, we would go and visit all these companies that had these, they had CLICO's group life policy. I left there in September. I got a bursary from them to go to, and that bursary was $500, so as we call it, a scholarship, a $500 grant to go to UB. So I went to university and I read for BSc in, we called it industrial management at that time. So accounting, economics, politics, sociology. So our so-called black power experience came into fro. You now understood. Well, you would have understood it. It would have given it more depth when I did West Indian history at sixth form level. So then you brought that into the UE. So you brought that experience in. And then, well, all the other subjects that made up the degree program. Graduated there in, so that would have been 76 to 79. And then I went on to the Auditor General's department. Numbers were easy for me, so getting into the auditing field was, I suppose, just a natural flow. I spent 3 years with the Auditor General's department, and then I went on to the Central Bank, where I am up to today. And within the Central Bank, I moved from internal audit to operations to supervision, bank supervision, back to audit, and then to the Ombudsman position. All of 32 plus years.
Tell me, what does the Financial Services Ombudsman do, and how is this different from the other ombudsman that other people would be familiar with?
Right. So we have the Ombudsman of Trinidad and Tobago, that's Mrs. Lynette Stevenson, and her remit is to deal with complaints on anything that government has major share in. So the ministries, the statutory companies, that's the remit of the Ombudsman of Trinidad and Tobago. The Financial Services Ombudsman deals with specifically complaints that citizens, customers have against commercial banks and their subsidiaries, the non-bank financial institutions. Most people will know Island Finance. There are 8 of those. And also the insurance companies. And you have 29 that's operating now in Trinidad and Tobago. This agency, and we are an agency of the Central Bank, started back in 2003 and was known as the Banking Services Ombudsman, because in 2003, when it was established, it was just the Central Bank and the commercial banks and the Office of the Banking Ombudsman. And this was to bring redress to, in one central area for individuals who had complaints. Now, the central bank always dealt with complaints. That's something, any financial institution, the central bank would always, the governor would have always gotten the letter. And while I worked in the supervision department, I would have had to address some of those letters at that point in time. So it sort of hived off that particular area and created the Banking Services Ombudsman. Now this was happening worldwide too. So in 2005, the insurance companies, since about 2004, started to say, hey, there's a good thing, and we want to be part of it. So they joined. So we had to change the name. It can be known as the Banking Ombudsman with. So we changed the name, and it was now the Office of the Financial Services Ombudsman, because we're now dealing with financial services. And also in 2008, the Financial Institutions Act of 2008 came into being. And Section 127 mandated that any financial institution licensed by the central bank had to be part of an alternate dispute resolution scheme approved by the central bank. And the only such scheme approved by the central bank is the Office of the Financial Services Ombudsman. So we do a lot of outreach because a lot of people don't know that we exist.
So anybody with a grievance against a financial institution can just come into your office and make the complaint, and you investigate.
We investigate, we mediate, and we seek for a resolution that's fair and impartial to both parties. So,
what is it about this job that keeps you here?
I love it, and I get an opportunity to do what I like doing, helping people. And I think that's the simplest way that I can say it. When I said earlier in the interview that it's almost as everything in my life has prepared me for working here. So I worked at Colonial Life, and you know what happened a couple of years ago with Colonial Life, and we're still reeling. But when I'm dealing with insurance claims, I have knowledge of. When I'm speaking to those in the industry, I know them. I know some of them from way back when. My life at Central Bank, my life at Auditor General, I audited not just, I was always on the company's division. So I did companies, manufacturing, so I did National Flour Mills, I did Caroni, I went to Lake Asphalt. There was a potato and onion company on here on the port that is now defunct. You don't hear about that again. The experience was wide. I went to NCB. At the time, I audited NCB, I audited Textile, Telco. Well, he wouldn't even know about Telco, but TSTT. You know, I had a range of areas. And then I came to the central bank. And the first place that I worked was internal audit. And who or what is an auditor? Someone who knows your systems and assists you in providing recommendations to make it better. So I've always been on a job. I went to bank supervision, went out to the banks, they made recommendations, always in an area where I can help. So now it's just formalized. I get an opportunity to sit and talk to people whole day if I so choose. And then go out and make presentations. So I get to visit, travel, and also within the last 3 years, this job has taken me to Austria, where I made a presentation on our model here at the Central Bank. I went to Sierra Leone. I saw a country that was coming out of civil war for 12 years. And I think if some of us in Trinidad saw what those people look like now, we would stop playing the fool. We would understand the importance of education, and we got an opportunity to go to Taiwan. The Ombudsman, Financial Services Ombudsman, we have an association, international association, and we have meetings every year. So it took me to Canada, both Toronto, Vancouver, and Whistler. It took me to Taiwan. We have our meeting this year. Well, I hosted the conference here, so I was, for the first time in its history, they had a conference and decided to work. And we were able to bring down 70 or 80 international people who had never seen people from Russia who just live in snow. I mean, people went crazy with seeing the water right there, and sun, we didn't get too much rain during that September period. Blown away. And then, of course, I had to take them to Tobago. And that was paradise for them. They didn't want to leave. They want to know if this is how we live every day. Because they can't live like that. They need to take a vacation to relax. And we don't realize that we relax every day. You know, we have stress, traffic, and noisy children, and miserable husband or wife or something so. But in all, we have such a gem that we just don't realize it until we go out. And this year the conference is in Finland. And we have people, as I say, most of them are from Europe. So once I stay here, I have an opportunity to see the world and then to share our stories. And we are on par with what is happening outside. We are able to teach them our method. One of the things that we do that none of them do outside, and no other financial services ombudsman scheme, they don't deal with the public. They do everything via telephone, email. They don't see the public. You know, we actually see the public and do that, and still have a high resolution rate, a 95 plus in both insurance and banking cases for the last, 14 years? Yeah.
You mentioned your desire to help people. Is that why you're part of the DIGOSEC alumni?
Yes. When I, someone sent me, I think we have a couple Digo Martin Sec students who work here at the bank, and one of them sent it to me. And I went down, and any way that I can help, I help. I may not be able to make meetings every Tuesday or whatever, but whatever the school needs and that I could be of assistance, I will. You know, that's giving back.
How would you like to see DIGOSEC change?
Okay, so here's my little piece. I was invited to the school to talk about living the dream, and I was disappointed in the discipline of the children. I wish I could take all of them to Sierra Leone, let them just study. I don't think they could make a week for them to understand what they have. I think we really don't appreciate the quality of life that we experience, regardless of our own reality, whether we are extremely poor or filthy rich. We don't understand our reality. We don't understand how blessed we are. And all I would like to do is to take them for one day. In fact, take the whole of Trinidad to Sierra Leone for one day. We will read it. Because to see what these people have to go through, and I'm not just talking normal citizens, I'm talking named citizens, all into Freetown. And Sierra Leone, look at it on the map, it's a huge country. And you have just the Freetown section, and everybody else comes from what we will call the depressed areas, because it's just land, and everybody comes to town to get a job. So within Sierra Leone, I don't want to misquote the number, but it's certainly not 1.5 million people, right? And everybody comes down there to get work. So from the time you step out of the car, you're dealing with somebody trying to carry your luggage just to get money. I was a millionaire in Sierra Leone, and I put the money, if I can get that picture, I'll send it to you. I put the money on the bed, $1 million Sierra Leonese dollars, right? But $10,000 is what it's cost for a satchel of water. And sometimes that's all somebody works for the day. Satchel of water. I paid 28,000 Sierra Leonese dollars for a Cadbury's chocolate. $28,000. So.
Was there anything in your time at DIGOSEC that prepared you for where you are now? Is there something you could think about?
I think my teachers. And now some of them are still alive. We had two principals in my time, Mr. Bedu, he has passed on, and Mrs. Frances Silver, she has also passed on. But I think Paula Daniel is still around. Miss Thompson is still around. Miss Pujadas. The three of them lime often. So they regular from long time. Mr. Beckles. Trying to remember some of the other guys' names. But the teachers who were around at that time, in fact, one of the teachers worked here for a while at the Central Bank, Mr. Lancelot Busby. He taught at Digosec. He was, I think, our Spanish teacher in Form 1. He went on to be a statistician, well-known, well-renowned with the World Bank and IMF and so. They, although they were just a few years elder than us, they took us in hand. And at that time we listened. And they taught us how to appreciate education. At least that's what I got. And I met a fellow student, Barbara Andel, at Queen's Hall on Saturday. We went to the Calypso show, Kaiso on Trial. And we looked the same. A couple of years on, a couple of pounds more, but we looked the same. And we talked about Digosec. We talked about the time that we had teachers that if you didn't have a meal, you could have gone to them, and nobody else would know. You were ill, or something happened in your family, the teachers were there. I told you they were an extension of what your parents did, and if the parents didn't know, but the teachers taught it, they would be the one. So it is what I saw at Digosec. It is what happened at Digosec. We were family. Yeah.
Ms. Roach, what is next for you?
Where I see the work-wise, the Office of the Financial Services Ombudsman, we would like to become a separate legal entity. So we are working on that, and we want to take, so that's going to take a couple of years, so that I'm hoping I'm blessed to see that in, not I'm hoping I'm blessed, what was it, what you say? I'm claiming it, that I will see it into fruition, see the OFSO as a statutory entity, and that has a lot of promise, our independence, because we need to be seen, not only act as independent, but be seen as independent. So we can't be independent within the central bank. Even though we will never totally be independent, because they'll still have to mind us. There is no way that the OFSO can raise money, because everything we do is funded by the financial institutions as well as the central bank. So that's where I'd like to see the bank, where I'd like to see the office going. On a personal level, my daughter, about 20-year-old, she just turned 20, she's at university in Canada, and I'd like to see her graduate. I'd like to see her get married and have a couple. She told me she wanted to have 4 children, so I want to be there for my grandchildren. And wherever God has work for me to do it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roach, for being our guest today.
No problem, my dear. Thank you for having me.